All right, so the regular meeting of the HABD Board of Commissioners is now called to order. We'll start with the home response. All right. Roll call. Vice Chair Hood.
Present.
Commissioner Pantazis.
Present.
Commissioner Lewis.
Present.
And Commissioner Thompson.
Present.
All right, we have a quorum. So at this time, this is time for our elected officers for calendar year 2021. So at this time, what we will do now, we will, so at this time, we will open up the floor for nominations for chairman of the Housing Authority, the Birmingham District Board of Commissioners for calendar year 2021.
Mr. Chairman,
The floor.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, maybe the understanding that you have potentially removed yourself from the running this year. I would like to nominate the following two commissioners for president and vice president. I suggest, or not nominate Commissioner Hood as president and Commissioner Lewis as vice president.
I second.
All right, so you want to do the chairman and the vice chairman at the same time? You like to make that nomination?
If it meets our formal procedures, then yes.
I think we are allowed to do that. Is Attorney Moore on the line?
Yes, I am. Commissioner, I would do the vote separately, if you would.
Not a problem. Well, I'd like to make a motion to nominate Commissioner Hood for president of the HABD for 2021.
Second.
All right, so we have a nomination for chairman, Dr. Anthony Hood. Are there any other nominations? Right, if I entertain a motion to close the nominations on said name.
Motion to close the nominations.
I second.
All right, this is been moved and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, so the nominations have been closed for the said name of Dr. Anthony Hood. So now we will go into our vote. All in favor for Dr. Anthony Hood for chairman?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, so Dr. Hood is our new chairman of the Housing Authority of the Birmingham District Board of Commissioners for calendar year 2021. Congratulations, Dr. Hood.
Congratulations, sir.
Congratulations, Hood.
Mr. Chairman, and I think at this point now, Mr. Chairman Hood, should we move forward with vice chairman nominations now, or should we wait?
A point of clarification, does this take into effect at our next board meeting?
Should take effect.
No, this is effectively, Dr. Hood is the new chairman, effective immediately.
Well, then, I'm sorry, Board of Commissioners, we should have taken the vice president first and then the president second, so that our chairman would have been able to carry the proceedings through. But since we've completed it, Dr. Hood, if you would go ahead and carry through the nominations for the vice president.
Well, first of all, thank you to my colleagues for their confidence, and more importantly, thank you, Chairman, for over the years as being the chairman of the HABD. Thank you. With that said, the floor is open now for nominating this chairperson of the Housing Authority of the Birmingham District.
I would like to suggest Commissioner Lewis for vice chairman.
All right,
I second.
we have a nomination for Commissioner Lewis for vice chair. Are there other nominations?
I'd like to support the motion to nominate Ms. Lewis for vice chairman of the HABD for 2021. Great.
Yeah, can everyone mute other than the speaker?
Okay, Commissioner Hood, I believe that I did hear a complete vote, and it was voted that Commissioner Lewis would be your vice president of HABD for 21-22 year. Is that what I heard?
Correct.
Okay.
And I was just confirming that. So that closes the nominations for.
Yes, 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 sir.
Great. Well, thank you, Commissioner Lewis, for being now our vice chair of the Housing Authority of the Birmingham District.
Okay, thank you, commissioners, for choosing me, and I look forward to continue working with the group for the benefit of the housing and the residents. Thank you.
Congratulations to both of you guys. I'm looking forward to working with you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. All right, so at this point, we can continue our agenda. The next item on our agenda, we did vote to approve the agenda, correct? Okay, so the next item on our agenda is the approval of our minutes from the meetings, our regular board meeting, December 17th, and our special meeting on January 15th.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes for December 17th and the special board meeting January 15th, 2021.
A second.
It's been moved and properly seconded that we approve the minutes from the regular meeting December 17th, special meeting January 15th. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, that item passes. Old business. Mr. Northern, you're on mute.
It was probably my computer one that was messing up. As far as old business, we have some old business activities to review for the board. Just give me 1 second. In your background, each board member was sent a complete packet of information with all the background information associated to the agenda items that we have for today. Let me just get to this one page. Sorry, sir.
I can have the floor for 30 seconds.
Please, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We were having these technical difficulties. It was kind of hard to hear, but I just want to thank my colleagues for allowing me to be the chairman of the Housing Authority of the Birmingham District. I appreciate the opportunity. I look forward to working with you, Dr. Hood, under your leadership, and Commissioner Lewis. I'm excited about where we're going with the agency, and I think with our new president CEO coming on board, new leadership, new fresh leadership, we're going to go to higher heights, and I'm just so pleased to be a part of this august body to move forward with what we're doing with the agency. So I just wanted to say that before we move forward with the business of the agency. So thank you so much. I just want to thank the residents for allowing me to work with you. And I want to thank former Mayor William Bell for giving me the opportunity to serve. And I look forward to serving the rest of my term. Any way you need me, Dr. Hood, Commissioner Lewis, I'm here for you. I'm just a phone call away. So Look forward to working with you in a collaborative manner, and let's get to work.
Appreciate that, Commissioner Davis, and your institutional knowledge of being on this board for a number of years, I think, is going to be welcome and incredibly valuable. And thank you for steering us through our leadership change and allowing us to hire Mr. Northern, which we have a lot of confidence in his leadership ability. And I think everybody, I think I speak on behalf of everybody, both on this board and in the city, that we're incredibly excited about his leadership and the heights that he's going to take the Housing Authority of the Birmingham District. So again, thank you, Commissioner Davis, for all that you've done.
Thank you. And one more thing before I be quiet, I just want to take this time to thank the staff, the inter-office staff, for helping me make my job a lot easier. Ms. Bibbs, thank you so much for what you do. You make things go smooth, and I just appreciate you working with the board and working with the commissioners the way that you do. And Kizzy, thank you, Ms. Holmes. Thank you for what you do to assist. And I can't say enough about Ms. Foster, what you've done to hold things together in the interim. You're best in class, and I just thank you for everything that you've done to hold things together. You've gone through some tough things in your interim. We dealt with a pandemic, all different types of things that you had to deal with, and you served admirably, and we just thank you for all that you've done to get us to this point.
Thank you so much, Commissioner.
Commissioner Davis, I too want to just thank you for your service and your leadership. I mean, it really is great that we can have this, a sort of effective transition, but also still collaborate as a group and to, make the most of institutional knowledge and the history of what you've been a part of and where you brought us, but also continue to grow and bring in new leaders. So I think it's a really healthy environment that you've cultivated, and I just want to let you know how much I appreciate it, and not just from these board meetings, because I know your work has not just been in the back of the house. You've been out at the sites. You've been out with our residents and with the staff, and that's something that I hope that we continue to make a part of our leadership group as we all continue to help guide the HABD. So I just really appreciate everything you've done, and I know you're not going anywhere, so I'm sure you'll continue to guide us with your wisdom. But thank you, and as you said, thank you to Ms. Foster and all of the staff who really made things hum this last year when it really was, everybody was throwing a few curveballs. So thank you for everything you've done. You helped keep the ship afloat, and the work I know was immense.
If I may say something, Chairman, I just want to say thank you so very much. I could not have done this without the support of the board, with this HABD staff and the residents. They've just been tremendous in supporting me through this transition. As we say, you can't do it alone. You got to have a team. So we definitely had that team to move things forward. So I was truly grateful to have that opportunity. So thank you so much. And we're just excited and elated to have Mr. Northern come aboard to lead us through these great years moving forward. So we're excited.
I want to say thank you, Chairman. Commissioner Davis also. He was, led the effort in terms of bringing me here as the chairman, and we haven't had a whole lot of chance to work together as chairman, but each board member, equally holds a great, level of, support for the organization and care, and I'm pretty sure we'll be working long into the future together. So congratulations, and to the new vice chair and the new chairman, and to our old vice chair, to our old chairman and the old vice chair. Thank you for what you've done so far.
Thank you.
Now, so as far as, do we have any old business?
All right.
New business?
I've got a couple items that no one else does.
Yes, sir.
One, I guess in the new business, I would too like to congratulate the new officers. So congratulations. But two, I hesitate to go into too much new business because I know Mr. Northern you know, we're really excited to have you on board. I know you've already hit the ground running, and you're putting together your 100-day plan. So some of these things, they may be included in your plan. They may be things that you've already recognized. And so I don't want to jump the gun and say, well, you know, we need to do these when you're already doing it. But there are a couple of highlights of issues that I at least would like to see us contemplate both within your plan and as we move forward as a board. The first thing is, you know, I know everyone on this board and in the HABD was saddened by the recent death of Major. And, you know, it was one of those moments that, you know, it just hit me in my heart personally. And I know it did for Mr. Northern as well. And I saw how he really got out there and did a good job of reaching out and trying to do what we can do to help, you know, as much as possible. So I really appreciate your efforts there. I would be remiss, though, to say that if we don't take Major's loss in this moment and try and do better, and whatever that means, you know, I know I've got some ideas. I know everybody on this board has ideas. I know Mr. Northern, you've got some ideas. Let's throw them all on the table. Let's figure out what we can do to help make our residents safer. And, you know, let's reach out to our partners. I personally propose that we look at maybe putting together a subcommittee on resident safety, if we don't already have a mechanism that works that way, to truly reach out with the city, our community protection group, and let's just see if there's anything else we can do, because you know, it will be a failure on our part if we don't do what we can to make our residents' lives better and safer. So I throw that out there in general, and I know it's probably heavily on your mind, Mr. Northern, but I want you to know that at least from the board perspective on my end, I'm sure others, it's really one of the foremost priorities that I would like us to address in the immediate coming days. One item that I do know that has been discussed in the past, and I don't think we've seen fully get off the ground, and I'm not a huge proponent on cameras on every corner. I think there's a lot of civil liberties issues and concerns with facial recognition and you know, you name it, there's a lot of issues there. But I do think there is a healthy and safe way to look into access and egress cameras at each public housing site that can help provide some accountability where there may not be as much at this point. So I know that's something we've discussed with Alabama Power in the past, and it didn't quite get off the ground on every site. I know that there are sites that do have similar cameras installed, but I would like to see that at each and every one of our sites, so that all of our residents feel that if something does happen, that at least those that did it will be found and held accountable. But again, I do say that with the caveat that I think we also need to do it judiciously and carefully for the rights of our residents and all those that visit our sites.
As well,
I was just going to follow up and say thank you for that. And that was we had a great first week that ended with that tragedy. Our team came together and we was able to help the family, but you know, long-term effects will ring true in terms of us as a community coming together, ensuring that situations like that don't happen. We know we can't control everything, but we can do some things to improve it, and that's what we're working toward. Some of the things you mentioned, sir, we're already working on, like you said. So I don't want, unless you want me to go over some of them, I will go over some of them, but we will make a better effort and do better for our community as a whole. And that's what it's about, bringing it together. You know, our team was on site working. We, you know, made contact with the grief counselors, went out and talked to our residents in the community and showed them that we cared, because we are a family and they're part of us. So, and that's something we will continue and work with the police and the city. We've already had some talks about things that we want to do to work together. So thank you for that.
And that's great to hear. I know you guys are working on it, so I look forward to seeing what the next steps are and what you put together, because I know where your heart is on it. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. The second update I wanted to check in on, I know our contracts for legal work at one point were still before HUD. Is that something that's going to be up today?
Well, yes, we've been working with HUD quite a bit, and you know, we have a lot of success that we've had with them, and that's one of them. They released the legal contracts, and so we'll be executing those legal contracts and then signing those contracts out in this coming week.
Okay, great. I was going to ask questions about what our plans are for the vaccines and at each one of our sites. And I noticed in your report, there's at least going to be some mention of 2 of the sites. So I won't go into it more than that, but it's definitely something I look forward to hearing about, because I want to make sure that everyone has as much access to that if they want them as possible.
And so we're working with the local health departments as far as with that, and it's some information. We have an informational training actually tomorrow with our with some residents and staff to go over and talk about the safeties. I'm gonna tell you one thing. I'm be the first one in line when it's my age group come up to get it.
I bet. And the last item of new business I had, maybe more work for Terrain than anybody, but one thing I was noticed when we were looking at the board packets and also our website, it would be great if we could maybe add in some page numbering or hyperlinks to our reports, so that, you know, if you have a big 400-page document, we can click on a item in the, you know, in the index at the front, so that we can then go, all right, well, here's all the pages that go, you know, reflect the paperwork that goes to that item. And kind of as a piggyback to that, if that's something that we can do, I would like to make sure that at least all of our minutes for the past couple of years are still available on the HABD website. I think I went on there and only saw the ones from, there were 2 or 3 from 2019, and I'd like to make sure that everybody has access to those.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Trent.
Oh, yes, Mr. Northern Senior reached out to me about that, and that is something that I'm working on. Previously, they were not on this website, but Mr. Northern reached out to me, and that's why you see, I started the process. You see some there now. We're putting them together. So that's a work in progress. So hopefully within the next day or so, I have the completed archives all listed there with all the videos that we have that goes along with them for maybe 3 years back into current.
And we also take a look at some of those hyperlinks. I know that's something that's making it just more user-friendly for all involved in terms of having our meetings. There's a lot of information, a lot of paperwork. And so that's something that we are talking and discussing about how to revamp our board packet, maybe to make it a little easier for our, not just for, you know, us internally, but also for the external people that want to take a look and make sure that we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's.
Wonderful. Thank you. That's all I got.
And Commissioner Sanchez, there was 4 items that you listed.
It was the emergency response in the sense to dealing with the crisis, working, possibly getting a subcommittee with residents and board members and staff to talk about, address some of the safety issues. Cameras on sites, that's something that we've already working on. I've been talking with Director Foreman about that, giving them an okay to move forward with some of the cameras. COVID-19, we're on top of that also. There should be some literature out. It should be some information in your board packet also, but I know on our Facebook and website about coming opportunities for vaccines, and the hyperlinks in the board packets and the information being stored. And that's another thing that's important, that we want to archive and ensure that anybody at any time can go back and check and see on what business we've already taken care of.
Okay, thank you for that. Ms. Beals, I just want that that's reflected. And so at the March board meeting, I would love in our packet under old business to have each one of those things laid out as open items, and then Mr. Northern, you can give us an update on those under old business at the next board.
Yes, sir.
Great. Thank you. Anything else under new business? Okay, great. Well, Mr. Northern, we will now entertain your President and CEO's report.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. I'm double laptoping it today. Make sure we don't drop the ball in any way. Can you hear me fine?
Yes.
Well, again, I just want to say thank you for all the hard work the team put in to making sure this board packet went out to you guys on a timely manner and the information they provided. We had an amazing first week. I know we provided you guys with a great deal of information. I'm not going to sit and read to you, but I will go over and answer any questions and concerns that you may have related to any of the items that we discussed and provided in terms of the packet. First item we're really focusing on is the pandemic. Unfortunately, when we're talking about COVID-19, we know that it's something that's totally out of our control, and we only can do what we can in order to create a better environment for our clients that we serve and ensure the safety of our staff members. As you know, I'm recovering now from COVID-19, and I appreciate all the prayers and kind words and well wishes that individuals provided. But as relate to working with the Jefferson County Health Department and other officials, we're providing vaccine opportunities for our clients, and also we're working on vaccine opportunities that'll be provided for our staff members also that choose. And that information continually come out. We put a lot of information on Facebook related to it, just trying to reach more individuals and some more targeted marketing related to it, so that individuals can get the right information. We had a session recently with our staff when we talked about COVID and the vaccines, but also we're working with the residents to do more information and education around it so that people won't be afraid of taking it. And as I said before, as related to the vaccine, I would be one of the first ones online letting them know that I've been there, and it's not a fun thing to have to go through. And so if we can vaccinate ourselves and our communities and make sure everybody's safe, that's totally best. We talked about the first 100 days and some of the things that we wanted to get done. Some of it may have been delayed because of my illness. However, the team's been doing an amazing job, and I just want to congratulate them all for stepping up. This is a new beginning for us all. It's a new level of trust with looking at how we can ensure that our clients trust us more, our community members trust us more, but also we trust one another, so we can work together to provide the right housing resource for the individuals that we serve. We had a great conversation with HUD, as we mentioned earlier, that HUD took us off the limited review, giving us more freedom and flexibility to operate as an organization without the oversight. The legal contracts was taken care of, and they'll be executed in the coming week. We have met with HUD a few times about repositioning, looking at some of our properties. We know the condition in some of our units in. We have Cindy Herrera and Associates, who's working with us as our development consultant. She's doing a great job working with our team, pulling the information together, aligning our current developments and our projects that we have moving, and the ones that we're looking at into the coming future for the benefit of our clients. Southtown is the major development that's taken a lot of time and a lot of attention, and it is an important development to the city and the housing authority and its clients overall. Our relocation, we've had a few situations with relocation, and we're fine-tuning that plan. We ran into a couple of hitches, and like I said before, a lot of that information is in the background for Southtown related to demo and different things related to the contract of Southtown. We had our kickoff meeting with BDO. BDO is our financial consultant. As you well know, we haven't had a chief financial officer for a number of months. BDO is stepping in and really working with us. They're working with our auditors now. Actually, I have a call a little later to discuss some items with our auditor. Well, that's tomorrow, but our auditor is on the call today. He'll go over a few things related to our financial audit. We also have, we're also getting ready to get a contract for a strategic and business plan. And that's one of the things that we discussed and talked about within the 100-day plan also, is that we want to ensure that not only do we have an updated strategic plan for the organization, we had a business plan for the organization to see how the organization can move into the future, decrease the dependency on a public dollar, but also providing the right type of resources to our clients, both housing and the wraparound services they need to be successful. We launched the Office of Constituent Concerns, and that's where we can, try to fine tune on the communication points coming from the organization as we look at one agency, one voice, but also making sure that our individuals in the community, our clients, elected officials, whoever it may be, get responded to in a timely manner. So far, it's been about 2 or 3 weeks so far since we kicked it off. We had over 60 plus tracked and recorded correspondence through that. So that's working and it's out there, and individuals appreciate it. Even HUD was excited to see that we're using that type of system in order to ensure that the information gets responded to in a timely manner. And we met yesterday with HUD and some other housing authorities talking about voucher utilization. We're not in bad shape, but we can do better. And HUD has a new focus on organizations making sure we release the capacity, and that's something that we're working toward doing. And the last thing I want to mention before we open up for any questions and we start going into some of the meat of the report is that we did have some conversations around the relocation, and we decided we had originally took 2 units offline that we was using for management offices and maintenance space. We're going to add those 2 units back so that, we have more clients that want to stay on site, can actually stay on site. And so our team has been working together to try to organize the right plan for management and the right plan for maintenance for those remaining 88 units that'll be on site. I know I gave a lot of detailed information. I went over a lot of information. We did provide a substantial report. I don't know if any commissioners had any particular questions from the President and CEO report.
Thank you, Mr. Northern. Commissioners, are there any questions for Mr. Northern? All right, thanks. Seeing none, Mr. Northern, you want to continue with the financial services report?
Yes. So, one good thing I want to mention is that yesterday we received $12.8 million in capital fund, and that's to go toward us, maintaining our properties and upgrading our properties for the benefit of our clients into the future. So that's an allotment. Every housing authority in the state received money. We're, I think the closest housing authority to receive was $2 million. So we're, miles ahead. But we all know that 12.8 million is just a drop in the bucket for what we need to do with the properties that we have in Birmingham.
Great. Thank you for that update.
Now, for far as financial services, no reports, no information. The board members have no questions related to all the reports that we've sent out.
Mr. Northern, so I understand it. Did you ask if we have questions about all the financial reports that were sent out?
Yeah, all the reports, the attachments related to the executive director, president and CEO report.
Well, just to clarify, your staff, they are going to actually present their reports, correct?
Yeah. I just wanted to know if you had any from me before we move to the staff reports.
Were there reports attached to your report, or are they part of just the board packet?
It'll be a part of the board packet.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll probably reserve my questions for things as we go through them. Generally, I don't have any questions.
Okay. All right. Well, with that being said, we can go ahead and start with the various departmental reports. Who's up first?
Excuse me, Mr. Northern, this is Ms. Lewis. If
Yes,
I
ma'am.
don't say anything, I'm having trouble hearing you because they're doing a lot of work outside.
Okay.
So it's extremely noisy in here, but I can hear you, but I can't speak a lot.
Okay, no problem at all.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so let's move on to the financials.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Congratulations, Dr. Hood and Ms. Lawrence. Okay, first I have the cumulative financial statement for period ending December 31st, 2020. Okay, let me share my screen so you can see what I'm talking about. Can anybody see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Okay, first, I have the financial statement for public housing and our central office. And I'm going to explain anything that's out of the budget. The difference between budget and actuals is over 10%. I'll give an explanation. The first item on the list is the mud inspector salaries. It's under budget because one of the position is still vacant. So once that position has been filled, we'll go back where we need to go before the end of the fiscal year. Number two is the insurance proceed is over budget, which we actually like. That just means that the insurance company have paid us most of the stuff that they orders for those fire damage units. So we don't complain there. Number three is the legal. That line item is under budget because we are not processing as many eviction as before. And once we start processing the eviction and COVID is over, that line will go up. Number four is travel and training. It's still under budget, but since the last board meeting, we have had more training and so forth. We're doing the webinars and we are trying to catch up with as much as we can. So once COVID is over and we can travel again and we can have more training, that line is going to go up. Number five is the tenant service participation funding. So far, it's still under budget, but compared to the last board meeting, we have had now more sites that came looking for the money for the budget. So as of today, we just received the funding from Ms. Lois. So by the end of today, we should be able to give you a check for, I think you are going back from 2018 up to that. At the end of the day, you should be current with your funding. And then by next board meeting, the tenant participation line will be up once we finish everything that we are processing this week. Number six is gas. Is still under budget because it's still a warm winter, but except for last week when we had the snow, but so far we have not had a cold winter yet. Number seven, the maintenance material, maintenance labor. With the COVID and everything, it's we are still under budget, but once the company comes back working 100%, COVID is over, by the end of this fiscal year, that line should come back to where we want it to be before the end of the fiscal year. And material goes is the same COVID. We are not spending and buying material as we did before. So once COVID is gone, we go back 100%. We should be able to go back where we need to be before the end of the fiscal year. Next, I have the cumulative financial statement for December 31st for Section 8. And I'll do the same. I'll explain any budget line item that's 10% more or less than the budget. Number one is the travel and training. Like everybody else, Section 8 has not been able to travel. We are doing travel, but we are not where we need to be. So once COVID is said and gone, we should be back on traveling, and that line is going to change. Number two, it's auto related. Again, COVID, thank you. We are not traveling or buying gas as much as we should be. So once COVID is gone, we should be back to where we need to be. So number two is for auto related and contract inspection. Number three is gas. Again, winter has been nice to us. We have not had a bad winter yet. So once winter is almost over, so we may never go back on that line, but we'll see what we have in the store for us. Okay, and then number 5 is maintenance material on the budget. Again, COVID, we are working on reduced work schedule for the past 9-10 months. So once everybody's back, COVID is gone, that line which we should be able to start spending again and buying material and traveling. And then number 5 is the software maintenance. It's under budget because we pay the maintenance fee once a year and it's usually paid in February. So in 2 or 3 board meetings, that line is going to go higher once we pay the software maintenance fee for the year. And then the next cumulative is just for the business activity, showing as of the end of December, we still had $6,393,310 in the bank as of December 31st, 2020. Okay, that completes my presentation for the financial statements. Do you have any question for me?
Any questions, commissioners? Okay, great. You can continue, Ms. Kashani.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Next, I have the approval is requested for the board to approve the charger for the month of December 2020 in the amount of $26,188.01. Of the $26,188, 26,000 of it is rent. Maintenance charge came to $75, and less the security deposit that's applied to offset the charges, we come to $26,188.01. That for the month of December. Do you want me to do January at the same time, or do I need to do them separately?
In terms of asking for the vote form?
Yes, asking for the board approval. I have December and I have January, so.
I think it can go to one motion, but you need to just make sure all commissioners had opportunity to look at both months' information so we can get it approved.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Okay. And for the month of January, I have, we come to ask the board for approval to write off $54,274.82. And 54,000 of it just for rent, 815 maintenance charge, legal fees at 311, and then we offset it with $1,425 security deposit. And so we came to ask the board to write off for the month of January $54,274.82.
Commissioners, any questions about our report for charge-offs for December 2020 and January 2021?
No, I don't.
Not here.
If not, I entertain a motion to approve these charge-offs.
I make a motion that we approve the charge-offs for January 2021
And December 2020.
and December 2020. Okay.
I second the motion.
Okay.
Great. It's been moved and properly second that we approve the charge-offs for December 2020 and January 2021.
Thank you, commissioners.
We need to vote.
Okay, my last item on the agenda is.
Hold on a second. Hold on a
I'm
second.
sorry.
Commissioners, all in favor of approving these charge-offs, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great. Thank you. That item passes. Go ahead, Mr. Chung.
Okay, thank you, commissioners. Okay, next on my agenda is I would like to present Mr. Lance Smith with the accounting firm of Clifton, Larson, and Allen, who conducted the fiscal audit for the authority for the period ending June 30th, 2019. Mr. Smith, are you there?
Yes, Lane, thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate that. And if it's okay, I'll go ahead and share my screen as well. Actually, it looks like I am not able to, let's see, and try that again. There we go. I will go ahead and share my screen as well. All right, just want to confirm you guys can see my screen right now.
We can.
All right, sounds good. Well, thank you, Chairman and Board. I appreciate this opportunity to present the audit for the year ended June 30, 2019. For the record, my name is Lance Schmidt, and I serve as your engagement principal on your audit. You should have received both the financial statements, governance letter, and also a management letter as part of the closing package. But what I've done is I've tried to take in all of that information and really consolidate it down in just a couple of slides, just to kind of keep us looking at the highlights of the audit. And so if that's good, Chairman, I will go ahead and do this presentation and give the highlights.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Just to recap exactly what you've hired us to do as external auditors. As you know, we were hired to perform an audit, but there's a lot of pieces that go into that. The first one is what you typically think of an audit, where we audit both the financial statements and the footnotes of the Housing Authority. Again, we're talking about the year ended June 30, 2019. We're actually working on the June 30, 2020 audit as we speak right now. Actually, we're on site last week for a couple of days. Well, whenever we weren't snowed in, we were on site, I should say. In addition to the financial audit, we also do a compliance audit. In 2019, we looked at the Housing Choice Voucher Program. When we say we looked at that program, we audit all the numbers, we audit all of the programs from a financial perspective. But on the compliance audit, the program that's selected, which again, there's a process by which we determine which program to look at. We take a deep dive. We're looking at inspections, wait list, tenant files. We're going well beyond just what you typically think of when you think of an external audit. In addition to that, we also do an agreed upon procedures. Basically, the Housing Authority submits financial information to HUD, and we issue an opinion stating whether or not that information agrees with the audited financial statements, and it did. And then lastly, we assist the Housing Authority in submitting a data collection form, which is basically an informational form that goes to the Federal Audit Clearinghouse that recaps both the results of the audit and any other findings related to federal awards. To again, just kind of cut right to the results of our audit, there's three primary reports that we issue. The first is the independent auditor's report on the financial statements. The first item I talked about on the previous page. I'm glad to report the Housing Authority received an unmodified opinion. What that means when we say unmodified, what that means is we were able to say the financial statements were materially correct, and we didn't have to use any exceptions or modifications to that standard statement of everything looked materially correct. So again, congratulations to management on that. Secondly, we also issue an independent auditor's report on internal control over preparing those financial statements. So do you have good internal controls as it relates to capturing that financial information and getting it properly recorded? We don't issue an opinion, but if we had any findings, we'd be required to report those. And I'm glad to report that we did not have any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. And then last, we also issue a single audit report on compliance, commonly referred to as a single audit or uniform guidance audit or compliance audit. We do issue an opinion on that over the material compliance requirements this year, specifically related to the Housing Choice Voucher Program. And I'm glad to report that you had an unmodified opinion. Again, it's a clean audit opinion and no findings, material weaknesses, or significant deficiencies. Now, as part of our audit, we also do provide a variety of feedback, both in terms of just verbal feedback, and then we also had a management letter as well, which is not recapped on the slide, but there were three items that we did mention in the management letter. We had one instance of a payment not being abated on a failed inspection. However, the Housing Authority was able to recoup those funds, so there was really no loss to the Housing Authority, which is good news, but we did want to highlight that. Secondly, we made kind of a best practice recommendation on the accounting side related to the capital assets of the agency. Basically just recommending that there be a very thorough inventory and then of all the capital assets, but more importantly, making sure as close as possible that there's a definitive in-service date for all those assets. Some of them just had years without really specific dates. And then lastly, there was at the request of during some of the interviews that we performed as part of our risk assessment, we did take a look at the timeliness of accounts payable payments. Actually spent a little bit of time with your current CEO, Mr. Northern, even kind of getting him up to speed on that as well, because I know there was him and I, when we chatted just recently, I'd mentioned that to him. He wanted to see that, and so Mr. Northern's up to speed on that as well. Really had to do with more so just making sure it's a good process to make sure all invoices are stamped when they come in, so that you can actually determine whether or not those are being timely paid or not. And what we saw is that that just wasn't consistently being done in all cases, kind of varied by department. So again, lesser items in terms of importance, but again, things that we wanted to communicate both to management and the board. And then lastly, as it relates to the audit, there's certain required communication that we have to have with the board, I should say, or with governance. If we had any difficulties during the audit, we'd be required to let you know. Right as we were trying to wrap this up, COVID-19 became a thing and was on our radar. However, management was able to work with us to get this issued timely, which is good news. In the governance letter that I mentioned earlier, you'll see all the corrected and that we had no uncorrected misstatements, but a corrected misstatement is basically an audit adjustment that we had, and we did have a few of those as part of our audit. If we had any disagreements with management, we'd be required to communicate that to the board. I'm glad to report we had none. And then also we do ask both the previous CFO and also your CEO to also sign a management representation letter stating that the financial statements are correct to the best of their knowledge, and we did receive that. And then lastly, if there were any consultations with other CPA firms, and kind of think of this as kind of a second opinion in the medical field or medical profession, that CPA firm is required to get with us before they issue an opinion. I'm glad to report there were none. Typically, I would share a few financial highlights from the audit. However, given the fact that we're talking about June 30, 2019, and that you just heard or just reviewed financial information from December of 2020, almost 18 months later. And again, we finished the audit back in March of 2020. It's just taken a while to get us on the agenda to present this. I'll just leave you with one quick note, and I think it kind of goes along with what Mr. Northern was saying earlier, just looking at voucher utilization and really just overall utilization of the HUD programs. You know, the goal is to lease up and serve obviously as many families as possible. However, you're restricted by the money that HUD provides to you, specifically related to the Housing Choice Voucher Program. So you can see of all the vouchers available, and these are unit months, so one voucher is equal to 12 unit months. You are 85% utilization. However, if you look just to the right of that in the very middle, you'll see the actual budget utilized, again, for the year ended June 30, 2019, was 99.5%, nearly 100%, meaning if you had more money, you could have served more families, but until you have more money from HUD, you're limited as to what you can do, and HUD doesn't allow any external sources of funding to be used for the Housing Choice Voucher Program. Then lastly, taking a look at public housing. Again, this is just a kind of a quick barometer, not a deep dive. HUD actually looks at this by AMP, not just in total, but it kind of tells you that anytime you're in the 90s, that's a good thing. The goal really is to be as close to 100 as possible. But again, just want to give you just a quick operational or financial highlight as a takeaway from this presentation. So I know I went quick, and but in the sake of time, I wanted to make sure we covered the highlights. But if there's any questions, I'd be glad to take those at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. Mr. Northern, anything that you'd like to add?
I just want to say that I'm just excited the team did such a great job, and looking forward to having another clean audit. And Lance, thank you again for keep getting me up to speed on everything, and all the work that your team is doing also.
Certainly, it's been our pleasure. Again, just want to say thanks to management. We're not able to come in there with a badge, and we're not like the IRS and request information, so you have to give it to us. It's a lot of work from Selene and her team, and really the entire organization. I think if you walked around, everyone would say they were impacted in some small way by the audit, some others in a large way. But again, I do appreciate that.
Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Schmidt or Mr. Northern?
Just kind of more of a high level question. I know you're working on the 2021 currently. Obviously, this is a little far removed. Is there anything that, and I noticed you picked out some of the even if it was minor, some of the things that we weren't 100% on. Is there anything overall other than the voucher program that you would recommend that we as an organization focus on to try and reach an even higher level?
No, that's a good question. I think it's a question that probably could go. We could probably answer that in a lot of different ways and take it down a lot of different trails. Obviously, succession planning with Miss Northern here, and looking at the accounting department, the finance department, that's going to be crucial. And Celine's been great to work with. In the interim, we've worked with her a lot, but just thinking about that, I would say is one small item. And then the other thing is kind of knowing what your metrics are, knowing kind of what your goals are, and making sure those are monitored. Obviously, utilization, I put that in there because that's and I think Mr. Northern and others would agree, heads in beds and making sure people are housed and, served is extremely important. And then I'd say lastly, the use of a lot of the money that's coming down to housing authorities right now related to the various stimulus bills that are out there, making sure you got a good handle on that. It's a huge risk to the agency. It's a good thing that you've got the funding, but it's a risk in the sense that you just want to make sure it's being spent properly on the things that they should be spent on, and that they're properly tracked. And I can just about guarantee it'll be something that we look at, in subsequent audits. So.
I think that's great information. So, I know we're doing the annual plan, and we're kind of putting the 100-day plan in. And I'd love to see some of, those items or all those items incorporated together, as I'm sure Mr. Northern, you're already considering. So that sounds great.
That's something. The succession plan is so important. Whenever we have anybody in any position, my job is to prepare the organization to be able to run without me. But that whole goal is mine, is that making sure we build solid leaders throughout from top to bottom, so that whenever anything was to happen, if somebody decided to leave for whatever reason, the organization will stay moving forward. So that's one of our main goals also.
I agree. I think that's incredibly important. And I would almost suggest that maybe at the next board meeting, we have an executive session to talk about succession planning, particularly at the top of the house, either in an executive session at the next monthly meeting or maybe a special meeting. But I do think that's important. Mr. Northern, we want to give you an opportunity to kind of come in and make your assessments. And I know you've been doing that over the last 100 days as to where we are with our staff and development opportunities for our existing staff, and opportunities maybe to put other people in position just in case we have some changes. So I think that's incredibly important. I want to make sure that we're making really good progress on that. Any other comments or questions from our commissioners regarding our audited financial statements? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the audited financial statements and the auditor's report for the period ending June 30th, 2019.
I'll put a motion to approve the auditor's report for the period that ended December 31st, 2019.
Second.
Right, it has been moved and properly seconded that we accept these reports. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
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 All right, that motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Schmidt, for that report.
Thank
And you can stop sharing so that the next person can share. Mr. Northern, you ready for the human resources report?
Since I'm having trouble unsharing this for whatever reason, some of the controls, oh, there it is. Apologize. There we go.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, we're ready for human resources. section now. And before we get started, I just want to make a note that about maybe a couple weeks ago, HUD did send a letter out. I'm not sure if all the commissioners received it. They sent the email out talking about CARES Act spending and our levels of what we were spending. I know that's something I've had conversations with each board member individually about some of the appropriate ways to utilize the money to benefit the organization. So some of the items that you see that have been coming in as items that housing authorities across the nation has been utilizing the monies for. HUD really dictates how you can use the money and what the money's eligible uses are for. And a lot of it is, as you know, me and Lance, we talked about it also, how we utilize the opportunity to offset some of the larger operational costs for organization and savings. So with that being said, Ms. Mitchell.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Mm.
And congratulations, Commissioner Lewis and Dr. Hood.
Thank you.
Can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
All right. I am going to read through the board actions. So Commissioner, first I'm going to start with, let me move the screen out of the way. Commissioner, first I'm going to start with the approval to extend the Family First Corona Response Act, the FFCRA. So the proposal is to request board approval to extend the Family First Corona Response Act, the FFCRA, to those employees who have not used this benefit. The request is to extend the FFCRA until funds are no longer eligible, available, and or once this benefit is no longer allowable or needed as it relates to COVID-19. So the purpose and the objective. The purpose of this request is to continue to allow employees to be eligible for the FFCRA if they fall in one of the 6 qualifying reasons for leave as it relates to COVID-19. This request is consistent with the approved eligible expenditures under the CARES Act funding. It has been noted that other public housing authority has extended the FFCRA. Also, according to HABD fee accountant, BDO, many public housing authorities are using the COVID funding to support employees. HUD is encouraging all public housing authorities to spend the COVID funding immediately, whether the COVID funds are spent on operating costs or COVID-related costs. I'm going to go into the justification and the description. The Consolidated Appropriation Act, CAA 2021, they extended the employee tax credit for paid sick leave and expanded family and medical leave provided to employees until March 31st, 2021. However, the CAA did not extend employees' entitlement to the FFCRA leave beyond December 31st, 2020, meaning employers are no longer legally required to provide such leave to employees. Therefore, HABD is requesting to extend the FFCRA to employees who did not use the FFCRA in 2020. If approved, the child care leave taken under this benefit will not count towards FMLA leave. And so if approved, we'll continue to follow the FFC guidelines. And commissioners, if you look at your packet, you would see the attachment in the employee rights flyer. And then also not attached to this right here, but you guys had it in your packet, the PIH notice, and then the FOTA volume 35, number 22. Commissioners, do you all have any questions regarding this board action?
Nope, I think it's a good idea.
Okay.
I appreciate the encouragement for us to expend these funds. Do we have an actual number for the unexpended funds that we have so far?
Yes, Commissioner, right now we have about 3 million remaining to be spent before December 2021.
Is it 2?
I mean, we have 3 million, around 3 million remaining to be spent.
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time?
Okay. We have about 3 million remaining
3
to
million.
be spent. Yes, 3 million remaining.
Okay.
And Dr. Hood, I think one thing you were probably getting at, and it's one thing I would like too, is I know there were a few other items in the agenda about, how we're going to use some of the funds and that sort of thing. I'd love to see kind of a big breakdown of where things are on that. And I know that's probably been circulated in some form or fashion at some point. So I'd love to see that again. I don't know if it's necessary right now, particularly for this action, but at some point that would be great.
Noted, Ms. Northern.
Excuse me. Well, I think that a lot of the actions that you will see today related to COVID and the spending is because of the lack of spending that we've had. If HUD and Congress wouldn't have extended the CARES Act, we would have lost 3 million probably or more of funds that we had spent as effective January 1st. And so, and working with HUD and our team, we're really looking at ways to better utilize those funds for long-term benefit of the organization. And so this is the first resolution really related to Corona that we're asking for in this session.
I think what Commissioner Fantastic is getting at is, maybe we can circle up and figure out like what is the best way that we can make sure that we expend those funds before they expire. Oh yes, we're working. That's what we've been working from since probably December. Before I even started, I've been working with the team members. And when I came down, we met and was given ideas, asking about the needs that we have for our clients, but also for our staff members and our various facilities also. And so we will come up with that number for you guys to see. One of the things you will see later on in the approval extension of CARES Act waiver, it gives us a little more leverage and a leeway to operate and get some money spent, versus waiting every 30 or 60 days in order to make some activities. So that's one of the things that HUD recommended to us to help out too, but we will make sure we pull up a report for you guys to see on the details on all our spending. It's part of the requirement also to keep the details of it. Commissioners, any other questions about the FFCRA extension? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve extending the Family First Coronavirus Response Act.
I make a motion to approval of the expenditures for the CARES Act.
A second.
It's been moved and properly second that we approve this extension. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. All right, that item passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jefferson Mitchell.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioners, next you will see the request for approval to an addendum to the attendance and work hour policy. The proposal is to request board approval for an addendum to the Employee Conduct 1.0 attendance and work hours 1.7 policy. The information in black is what is currently stated in the policy, and then all text with the red denotes addition. And then the purpose of this request is to offer a flex and compressed schedule to HABD employees. Having a flex and compressed work schedule will help increase productivity, improve employee work-life balance, reduce absences, and attract more talent within the housing workforce. Attached, you will find additional information about how a flex and compressed schedule will help the employee and employer. Many housing authorities have adopted a flex and or compressed work schedule. And this is the justification. A flex or compressed work schedule is an excellent way to incorporate employees' changing personal schedules due to COVID-19 pandemic because of school closures, delays, remote learning, and COVID-19 exposure, and etc. The flex and compressed work schedule post-pandemic will help employees manage overall efficient work-life balance. For example, medical appointments, school appointments, clients' needs. According to the Society of Human Resources, SHRM, regarding flexible work arrangement, flex work schedule was a top priority for many employees prior to the pandemic. Based on the U.S. Office of Personnel Management, as a federal agency returned back to the regular operation, managers are seeking to adjust employees' work schedule due to COVID-19 pandemic. to help maintain the productivity, health, and safety of the workplace. According to OPM, the hours being proposed will consist of workdays with core hours and flex hours that will benefit both the employee and address the client needs, whether it's early morning or later in the evening. HABD employees will benefit from this change and have requested various schedule adjustments to help manage their work-life balance due to the new normal. I'm going to scroll down to the attachment so that you guys can see the policy change that we're requesting. So Commissioner, what's in black is what's already in our policy. 1.0, attendance and work hours. Normal hours of operation for all employees are from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday, unless otherwise determined and approved by the department head and under the direction of the president, CEO, or designee. And this is what we're requesting to add, Commissioners. Flexible schedules or compressed schedules may be coordinated by the department heads as designated by the president, CEO, or designee, so long as the departments and or sites are sufficiently covered. Employees may be allowed to work a flexible schedule or compressed schedule between the hours of 6 a.m. to 7 p.m., Monday through Friday, with core hours between 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., so long as all offices and the needs of the authority is met. A compressed work week involves working fewer hours but longer days each week. An example of a compressed work week is working a 10-hour shift 4 days a week. A flexible schedule allows employees to work hours outside of the normal 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. schedule and during the times that are most convenient for them or when they feel they are most productive. Flexible scheduling also involves a teleworking policy, which allows employees to work from their home or another remote location during some or all of their shifts. All non-exempt employees will be required to work their full 40 hours a week and clock in and out daily. Exempt employees are required to follow HABD normal policy and procedures. Flexible and compressed schedule must be structured properly and approved by the department head or higher designee. Employees must continue to follow HABD policies and procedures as they apply. All offices must be covered and able to handle the day-to-day on-site business operation between the hours of 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. All positions are not conducive to certain flexible hours nor a compressed work week. And then, of course, this is already in the policy. Regular full-time employees that are hired for a specific work schedule and assigned or designated to work outside the normal hours of operation are subject to all rules, policy, and procedures as those working normal hours of operation. Such hours are not guaranteed to any employee and may be changed at the discretion of the HABD for its best interest. And then, of course, this is other benefits of a flex or a compressed schedule. Commissioner, you guys have any questions regarding this board action?
Yeah, I have a question. How would this affect all the employees? Maybe some employees could not change. So is it in the discretion of the housing authority to tell them that they have to work those hours?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
What would happen?
Okay.
What would happen is that the employee could request it from their manager, and depending on the departments, again, all of the positions are not going to be conducive. Some of the positions may just have to work 8 to 5. You take like maintenance may have to work 8 to 5. There are some other agencies that their maintenance, they work from 7:30 until 5. They may take a 30-minute lunch, but that's where the flexibility come in at. But all of the positions won't be able to have a flex schedule.
And this is something that we're doing so that, one, we give the staff opportunity to be a little more flexible to take care of their needs and their family needs, especially during this COVID time, but also to ensure that it's times where we need to stay later for our clients also. And so where we can provide a flexible schedule, we're asking the board allow us to.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Northern, you kind of hit the nail on the head on one thing I was going to ask as well, Ms. Jefferson Mitchell. Obviously, this is being put in place kind of during the pandemic with an eye towards things that are necessary or maybe have come to light during the pandemic. But it also appears, I mean, because we're changing policy moving forward, hopefully once we get out of this thing,
Yeah.
you guys think this is something that not only the employees want, but also that might help us better serve our clients and be more productive in hours in ways that we currently are not?
Yes.
sir.
I like the idea. I think if there's anything to gather or to gain from this last year, it's maybe new ways of doing things. I'd love to see us check back in a year if assuming this is approved, and get an idea of how it's going. I don't want to get too in the weeds on it for you guys. That's y'all's job, but just let us know if you've seen positive feedback, workplace satisfaction, client, services have improved. Anything like that would be good to hear.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Jefferson, Mr. I only had just one slight clarification. That second paragraph in red, when it talks about the compressed work week, it said the compressed work week involves working fewer hours each week. And just to clarify, this isn't saying that this allows people to work fewer than 40 hours a week. It's just fewer days each week, but more hours per day.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like you would work 10 hours, Monday through Thursday, of course, get an hour break, and then you would have your 40 hours. So technically somebody would be off on Friday possibly.
Yeah. So I would just change where it says working fewer hours, just change that to fewer days, but more hours per day.
Yes, sir.
Each week.
I see that.
If there are no other comments or questions about this, I'll entertain a motion to approve the addendum to our attendance and work hour policy.
I'd like to motion to approve the addendum to the attendance and work hour policy.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded that we approve this addendum. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, that item approved.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Mhm.
Commissioners, next on the agenda is approval for current HABD employees to receive a salary increase. So the proposal is to request board approval for a 3% salary increase for current eligible employees and to retro the increase back to January 1, 2021. The Board of Commissioners approved up to a 5% increase in the July 1, 2020 budget for employees. This increase was established for the calendar year January 1, 2020 through December 31st, 2020. The purpose of this request is to approve a 3% salary increase for current eligible employees as consistent with the HABD policy. This request is consistent with the approved eligible expenditures under the CARES Act funding. It has been noted that other public housing authorities has approved similar increases. Also, according to HABD field accountant, BDO, many public housings are using some of the COVID-19 funding to help support the staff. HUD is encouraging all public housings to spend the COVID-19 funding immediately, whether the funds are spent on operating costs or COVID-19 related costs. This is the justification. Due to the coronavirus pandemic and other circumstances out of the staff control, it is very difficult to provide an accurate performance evaluation for all employees individually. Although the COVID-19 pandemic has had a major effect globally, HABD Public Housing Department ended its last fiscal year on June 30th, 2020 with an adjusted occupancy score of 98.9%. Currently, the Section 8/assisted housing is rated by the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, as high performance, which the department has held this accomplishment for over 5 years. The cost of living for 2020 is based on the Social Security and the Consumer Price Index, CPI, give it a percentage of 2.9. So of course we round it up. And then of course you have your attachment, Social Security press release, and then the Bureau of Labor Statistic with the CPI. So Commissioners, we're requesting your approval for a 3% salary increase for all eligible employees.
Great. Commissioners, any questions?
Doctor, I have a question just because it references an action that the board took before I got here. Just to, and obviously I would be in support of resources for our staff, but just so I'm clear, you all had already provided for an increase at 3%, and did it not take hold, or we are extending or renewing, if you will, a new 3% increase?
The board approved a set aside up to 5%, I believe it was, for staff salary increases. And the normal protocol, we do the evaluation system, and then it's decided. Because of COVID, we wasn't able to do that. So part of utilizing the COVID funding for operational costs, which will save us in other ways. So that's why we're asking for that 3%. We like kind of ran the numbers and looked at the cost of living index and various other reports, and decided to go at maybe 3%, where in a normal evaluation system, it averaged around 3% overall from staff.
Okay, great, thank you.
And I kind of had the same question. So it's a 3% increase. It's not going to be an effective 8% from last year. It's 3% within the 5% that's been already approved.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
And one of the reasons there's a number of reasons we didn't go with the whole 5%, but we know that there's other acts that we're asking that's related to staff too, and with COVID. And so we want to make sure that we can clearly, identify the budget amounts and that we can maintain, any costs that's, occurring into the future.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Northern, you did bring up a good point. So if this 3% goes into effect with the CARES Act funding for this year, will it also remain in effect for next year when we do not have the CARES Act funding?
Yes, but in a given year, we always, in most cases, give an increase based on our inflation factors. HUD gives us different monies in our various budgets. If we have the budget authority that we provided. Only the good thing about this year is that we can use the CARES Act funding for it, and we won't have to take the money out of our general fund.
And this amount that you guys have suggested takes into consideration what we will be able to afford for the next years as well.
Yes, sir. This is around an average what we provide. If we ran all the numbers together, on average, it's a 3% salary increase overall.
Okay, thank you.
Good questions. Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to authorize the president and CEO to approve a 3% salary increase for current eligible employees and to retro the increase back to January 1st of 2021.
Second.
So it's been moved and properly second that we approve the president and CEO to make these changes to salary retroactive. All in favor of that, let it be known by saying aye.
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 Anybody opposed? All right, that item is approved.
Thank you, commissioners.
And again, commissioners, I want to just reiterate that I know it's a lot of spending happening in this board agenda, but a lot of reasons it's occurring is because we didn't do it during the pandemic time frame. So we're playing catch up in a sense.
Commissioners, next you have the request for approval for employees' differential pay. The proposal is to request board approval for employees to receive a differential pay. The differential pay will be under a discretionary pay program, which will allow HABD to provide certain employees, permanent and temporary, with a differential pay as employees continue to face the unprecedented COVID-19 pandemic. And the purpose, I'll skip through this because the purpose is the same, related to the COVID and the CARES Act funding. So the justification. HABD employees have to navigate a new normal to adjust their schedules to get their jobs completed during the COVID-19 pandemic crisis. Employees are implementing new safety precautions, managing family needs, addressing clients' needs, etc. According to the website webmd.com, many frontline workers are concerned about carrying the virus home to their families. Employees are taking extra precautions, financial and physical, to make sure their families are protected. According to SHRM website article, Support Employees' Mental Health During the Pandemic, a survey was conducted about the mental health of the workforce during the coronavirus pandemic. Below are a few of the findings related to the employees' mental health. Feelings of burnout in employees have increased from 42% pre-pandemic to 72% during the pandemic. 49% feel less energy for non-work activities and 42% have less interest in socializing with friends. 42% have trouble sleeping and 33% are using more alcohol than before. 55% of employees did not feel their employer cared about their well-being. 59% of managers reported having to work longer hours. As the virus has raged and killed hundreds of thousands of people in the U.S., many industries realize how critical their workforce are at keeping the business operating. The executive staff, along with feedback that was incorporated from the employees, are currently working on a full-time return to work schedule. However, many employees continue to work through the pandemic and some employees have been able to telework. HABD frontline staff, such as the maintenance employees, has continued to enter units of vulnerable clients, and other essential staff continues to meet with clients and handle various documents. Providing employees with a differential pay may possibly help alleviate added stresses and help with additional modification made by the employees. The differential pay should also provide compensation for the increased burden the pandemic has placed on the employees. Prior to the payments being issued, the financials will be reviewed and guidelines will be assessed. HABD will do its due diligence to ensure all employee work plans are confirmed and validated by the supervisor and the department head. And before I move to the attachment, Commissioner, do you all have any questions?
Yes, I do.
Yes, ma'am.
Does this include overtime for some of the maintenance? Because some of the maintenance spend almost their whole weekend working for different problems that happen and they have to come in. So is that going to include overtime for them? Because that takes away all that time.
So I'm going to go over, Commissioner Lewis, I'm going to go over some of the information regarding the discretionary pay program. And so that may answer your question. Well, I'm sure to answer your question because it's going to be based off the gross income that they make monthly. And of course, this is just a draft. So I'm going to go over that, and I think that may answer your question. So,
and just to add to it, some people call it hazard pay. It was recommended from attorneys and the Department of Housing and Urban Development. We don't call it hazard pay, but basically it's giving the opportunity for our staff members that's putting themselves in a hazardous type situation on a daily basis. They may need more in order to continue to keep themselves safe and their families safe. And so we went away with the term hazard pay. Most people understand that term to differential pay.
And this is the attachment. Of course, this is a draft, so we can modify it. So HABD will begin to transition all employees back on site. Team members will be required to be on site at their respective location. In an ongoing show of support for HABD employees during the COVID-19 pandemic, HABD will implement an on-site discretionary pay program. Differential pay will be added to the first paycheck of each month. The maintenance, property manager staff, and HQS inspectors are to receive a monthly on-site differential pay of blank percentage of their gross monthly earnings. We left that blank, Commissioner. We provided an attachment with a list of the different percentages amount to you all. Other essential staff, HCV, finance, human resources, procurement, intake, and leadership are to receive a monthly on-site differential pay of blank percentage of their gross monthly earnings. So Ms. Commissioner Lewis, so it would be based off of their gross monthly earnings. Of course, they would have to, it would count towards the actual time that they actually was at work and working, physically working. All staff will receive a differential pay starting, if approved, of course, would have a date. Differential pay will retro back to March 2020 based on employees' on-site work days. And so this goes back to what President, I lost my spot, I'm sorry. President Northern had mentioned about, going back, the pandemic started back in March 2020. And so that's why we're requesting for it to retro back. And then on-site differential pay will remain in effect until HABD leadership deems it is no longer necessary. HABD reserves the right to change or discontinue this pay practice at any time for any reason. This differentiated pay will only apply to employees that are currently working. Department heads and supervisors will validate and confirm employee work schedule, the work plan. And throughout this pandemic, the department heads have issued different work plans depending on what's been going on with the pandemic, depending on the need for the agency. So various departments and various positions some have been working, some have been teleworking. And so this is pretty much the guideline that we're looking at going by. Of course, it's a draft, so we'll make whatever modification we need to make if approved.
All right, commissioners, questions about the differential pay proposal?
I just have two, and I was trying to read really quickly to make sure I didn't overlook it. But is there an actual number here or budget number that you're pulling from, or how much will it be? And just how long are we talking? I know it says basically until the discretion of leadership. But what's a reasonable, time frame for that?
This is one of those. This is one of those costs that's directly related to COVID, and so once COVID is over with, and once the pandemic cease and the level of emergency stop, then this will stop. It's tied directly to the CARES Act funding.
Okay.
And you should have an attachment, commissioners, with the differential pay for a percentage of different percentages amount. Do you all see that in your packet?
I know, but I'm maybe I'm looking at the wrong.
We gave a few percentage numbers so that we wanted to give some recommendations and a few different percentage and budget numbers so you can kind of see where the money is based on estimates. It's only an estimate because we got to make sure we document all the work plans in the past and ones going forward, so then we can clearly determine what that may be. But this is the estimates we gave you guys are on the high side.
Is that where it says the retro from January 2021? Is that the document you're referring to?
No, ma'am. You see the one that says differential from March 2020 through December 31st, 2021. Maintenance 10%, administrative 7%. And then there's another one. If you look at
I see it. I'm sorry. I'm trying to look at this through. Okay, I see it now. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So I just to kind of summarize, there'll be kind of you guys will look at everything, determine what we're going to do from say today back towards last year, and then monthly going forward, we'll also have an allocation to differential pay moving forward based on how long the pandemic, kind of creates issues.
And funding also. Again, this is the come from the CARES Act fund that HUD allowed us to use in this type of way.
Okay. I think just kind of as a running request with all of this, just to, I think we trust that this is a good use of the money, and I know you guys have done your research on this, or at least I know I do. I don't want to pretend to speak for everybody, but we just want to keep an eye on where things are going over the next few months. As I think Lance picked up, keeping an eye on this is very important for all of us to make sure we know what we're doing with all this money. Yes,
sir. That's one thing that's important. That's why we knew that's one of the reasons we pushed the meeting back to the last week of the month, because there were so many items that we had to pull together and you know, look at not just the staffing issues and procurement issues around it. We have also worked on a protocol to do on-site cleaning for COVID. Now we're going in and doing it every few days on our administrative offices to protect. Where you know we were trying to protect ourselves the best way possible, but you know it's still germs and it's still people coming in and out. And so now we're going in and cleaning all our administrative offices and things like that, you know, on a schedule so that we can, you know, protect from germs that may be sitting, because we're still learning so much about COVID. We don't know what it is all the way.
Any other questions, comments regarding this agenda item?
No, thank you.
If not, I will entertain a motion to authorize the president and CEO to award differential pay.
I'll put a motion to approve the president CEO awarding differential pay for certain employees.
Second.
All right, it has been moved and properly seconded that we authorize this action for the president and CEO. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
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 And again, commissioners, we just want to ensure you guys that. Oh, sorry, you didn't.
I wanted to make sure I gave all the commissioners to indicate.
Oh, okay. I thought I heard. Sorry.
Apologies. I didn't hear you.
Aye.
Okay. Anybody opposed? All right, that agenda item passes. Go ahead, Mr. Northern.
I apologize about that. I moved a little too fast. Again, I know that, and that's why I want to reiterate that we've done our due diligence through this. We know it's a lot. You know, as board members, you hold your position at a high esteem, and we hold you at a high esteem also. And we know when we're talking about spending the federal dollars, that we have to do it in a right and appropriate way. So we did, again, do our total due diligence in terms of reviewing the policies and the procedures, speaking with our HUD officials, along with our fee accountants and auditors, and working with other housing industry members throughout the nation to make sure that we are operating effectively.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. Ms. Jefferson Mitchell, your next item.
Thank you, commissioners. Commissioners, next you have in front of you approval for an employee dependent / childcare stipend. The proposal is to request board approval for a dependent care stipend of up to $500 per child per month at the discretion of the president and CEO to families who are caring for children ages 0 to 17 years old, as well as 18-year-old dependent that are currently enrolled in high school and adult dependent with disabilities. And again, the purpose, it falls within the same guidelines for the CARES Act Fund and other housing authorities doing something similar to this stipend as well. So I'm going to go into the description and the justification. HBD executive team is executing a return to work plan to bring all employees back into the office full time. The office will remain closed to the public, vendors, and still meet the needs of the clients. The agency understands the difficulties employees are facing during the coronavirus pandemic. A major concern is child care services due to the changes as related to the coronavirus, whether it relates to school closure, fear of returning child back to school, the stress of virtual learning, or parents not having the supportive funds for their children. Based on AmericanProgress.org, the COVID-19 pandemic has had a major effect towards the child care sector that was already failing to support all families. Parents are scrambling to try to adapt to the child care / school issues. The data from the U.S. Census Bureau Household Pulse Survey collected between April 23rd, 2020 and August 31st, 2020 found that on average, 10% of working mothers reported not working each week because they were providing care to a child who was not in school or childcare. In addition, research from Northeastern University showed that 13% of working parents either cut back their hours or stopped working due to a lack of childcare. Another survey conducted by Clio, a company that supports working parents, found that 20% of working parents or their partner were considering leaving the workforce to provide childcare. On a regular basis, HABD supervisors and HR staff receive questions from employees regarding working with them as it relates to their child's school closing, virtual learning, or a recommendation to quarantine due to COVID-19 exposure from school, work, or elsewhere. In order to help alleviate some of the pressure and stress related due to the child care, HABD would like to develop and implement a dependent child care stipend for employees who are caring for children ages 0 to 17 years old, as well as 18-year-old dependents that are currently enrolled in high school and adult dependents with disabilities. The dependent child care stipend will assist employees with youth and adult children as listed above. The stipend will be available to assist eligible employees pay for care related to their children. The employees may use the funds to assist with child care, assist with virtual learning, pay for Wi-Fi connection, etc. To determine eligibility, employees must complete a self-certification form and additional proof validating primary guardianship will be required. HABD will audit a percentage of the request on a monthly basis to ensure compliance. And then I'll move to the attachment. First, I want to see if you guys have any questions about this board action before I move forward.
Chairman Hood, I would like to make a comment if
Please.
and so again, I know it's a lot going on related to COVID and the spending based on the allocation of funds from the CARES Act. Now, this was, I'm gonna be honest, even being a single father, this is one of the toughest decisions we had to make in Champaign about the child care stipend. The reason we started looking at it was that one, we heard it from it was some other housing authorities that was doing it to help protect their, in most cases, the female staff. So a number of staff members, we had one person end up quitting. One young lady, she quit. She had recently had a baby. She couldn't take it in terms of affording to make it work when we brought people back to the work environment. And so we went ahead with it, and it ended up panning out great for us. We were still able to keep all our female employees or parent employees safe, along with allowing them to be able to work and them to take care of their child. And in December, you know, we received a complaint about it from somebody in the community that we shouldn't be doing that. Well, in December, it showed and came out how that, you know, we're losing women in the workforce at a high pace rate, and especially minority women related to COVID and the child care aspects of it. And so that kind of like, you know, validated some of the decisions that we've been making. And so I know, again, as we continually talk about, you know, spending funds that was allocated for these type of activities, we just want to ensure that we are doing our clear due diligence and reviewing all these items and before we bring them to the board and looking at the budget numbers.
Thank you, Mr. Northern. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
Got a couple, and one, Mr. Northern, I appreciate your comments and you as well, Ms. Jefferson Mitchell, particularly as to how this is probably a difficult decision, because I think everybody agrees this is something that's needed and could be used. I don't think there's any argument that childcare isn't expensive and that it contributes to people leaving the workforce, and particularly a lot of times mothers. And so from that perspective, I like that this is an initiative. I like that we're having this discussion, and I like that it's been proposed. It is a lot of money, though. Even having these monies to spend, I am a little concerned that I'm not sure exactly what sort of budgetary impact this would have in the CARES Act funding and what alternatives were considered. So I don't know if we've run kind of numbers on, say, 50% of the eligible families submitted and were approved for this over the next, basically before the CARES Act funding runs out. What would that number look like? And were there any other considerations as to how we might be might spend that money. And my assumption is that this has already been done and that you guys have considered other ideas. But it's not really in the presentation that we have here. So those are just kind of general thoughts. I'm kind of in the middle on it. I would love to approve it, but I also do have some concerns, and I think I have, I want to be honest about that. The second thing I see, just from a practical standpoint, I'm a little concerned about how it looks like the application simply goes to, and with all due respect, Mr. Northern, it goes to you and then it's just approved, denied, and reason. Maybe it's the lawyer in me, but that concerns me, that if somebody was denied and there wasn't a lot of documentation and other hands involved, whether it's legal or HR or somebody else, there could be allegations of impropriety about how someone got it but someone else didn't, without a lot of documentation. So I would be concerned that we need a more robust check and balance there to not only, provide clarity to those that apply, but also to protect our leadership from, any allegations of impropriety there.
I appreciate that, Commissioner. One of the things I think I had to sign, I think the form allows me to sign off on it at the end once it comes from, HR for approval and stuff. So we do have a checks and balances. We didn't explain it out there, but we do have that. But I totally appreciate and understand both of your comments, related to, utilizing the funds. Again, I just want to reiterate that it is an approved use of funds for an important reason. But one of the reasons I did provide the disclaimer earlier is that I know that, it's a lot to ask, right? It's a lot to ask to spend funds. But now, if we would have been slowly spending money on some of these activities all year, it'll probably be a little easier to digest. But since we hadn't utilized none of the, some of the CARES Act flexibilities for staff support and things like that, to continuing to work going forward, along with bringing everybody back to work, so we can be continuing to stay at a high level of productivity. It would probably be a little easier. I totally understand that, because even when we made our policy changes in my prior organization, we was piecemealing in a sense, because we was learning as we was going along. And so here we didn't do some of those. So that's why we're trying to play catch up on it.
Mr. Northern, if I may, I will say you do not have to be apologetic about spending these dollars. I know you said it a couple times, but the money is there. We need to spend it. And I'm glad that we're spending it on our employees, because I think that's absolutely the right thing to do. So kudos to you and your team for doing this. Yes. I think some of the questions and comments that you're hearing now, I think it would make, I know me personally, I can't speak for my colleagues, it would make me feel better to actually have some numbers, a forecast. We have all these different items. How many employees have dependents? How many dependents does each employee have? And then over how many months? A lot of these things are being retroactive. Over how many months are we going to pay these out? So do we have a forecasted amount that this is going to cost $800,000 retroactively, and then going forward, we can afford to do another 5 months at this amount? And then, if we're talking about remote work and then differential pay and then the annual increase, do we actually have numbers for each one of these items to show, and I'm assuming that you guys have done this behind the scenes, to show how we get up to really expending these $3 million. I think for us, it'd just be helpful to actually have a budget to show how you're expending these dollars over all these different categories.
And Commissioner, and we were actually, that was the plan, to try to have some numbers, particularly for some of these board actions, but it will take some time to get those numbers up. And so I don't think that would be a problem with us being able to provide a forecast, an estimate.
Okay.
That was the.
Let me finish. So what I don't want to happen is we make these approvals today, we've made these commitments, and let's just assume that we have a snag with the coronavirus and this thing extends out into 2022. I think we need to be very clear that these things are only good for the amount of money that we have And once they're expended, they're expended. I
Yes.
think people know that, and I know in one of the previous items, we were explicit about that. We haven't been explicit about that for each one of these items. So I just want to make sure that we're clear that this is only good to the extent that we've expended the CARE Act funds. Now, once we expend the CARE Act funds, I guess the question is, will these things continue? The differential pay, the dependent care stipend, so on and so forth.
The most of the CARES Act proposals that we're bringing to you related, especially for today, is only eligible with the appropriate funding related to the CARES Act funding. And once that's out, it's out. And then we may, as an organization, decide to readjust some things and look at things a little differently if we feel something's working for us or something's been helpful or beneficial to the growth of our staff, along with the productivity of what services we provide to our clients. As related to the numbers, we've ran a host of numbers. Some of the numbers, as we mentioned before, some of the numbers are on the high side because we did an estimate on if everybody was eligible for it. Some of the information related to the dependents and children, it was a little tougher to try to pull together. We didn't have ability to just pull some numbers together. And so what we're looking at is that as we pull numbers together for this type of activity, to have those budget items. And the reason we're asking for the ability to move forward with this is that, one, we know we have the money there. Two, we know it's eligible and a good use of the funds. And three, we only have so long in order to use the funds in these type of appropriate ways. And so we just didn't have enough time, to be honest, to try to find out who all had dependent children, who met it. Because it may be, like you said before, sir, it may be something that we get to them like, hey, we can't afford to do it.
Yeah. So I would just offer, when we do approve these next items, that we do it with a caveat that this is contingent upon the availability of these CARES Act funds. And then once they're expended, then we're under no obligation to continue these things. I would also ask that at our next monthly board meeting that we have an updated expenditure of what we've expended so far, particularly those things that are retroactive, and then our forecast for each one of these items as to, if this is to continue, how many more months could we continue this?
Yes, we'll do. We'll make sure we have that for every board meeting here on out.
Thank you. Go ahead, Commissioner Fantasis.
And I think those are all great thoughts, and I concur. What is the deadline currently to spend the CARES Act funding?
January 2021. December 31st, 2021. They extended it at the end of this past year, 2020. And again, just so everybody understand, when the CARES Act money was submitted, it was kind of loose. It wasn't a whole lot of guidelines associated with it. But we started fine tuning it over time. So Congress did decide to extend the CARES Act funding to the housing authorities past the December 21st, so the December 31st date, December 31st, 2020. If they hadn't, everybody that hadn't spent money, the money would have been taken. Each HUD's field office in each state is monitoring the expenditures, because as we spend money, we have to update it into a system so they can track it. And we were notified that we were underspent and at risk of losing possibly some funds. And so right now we're working in Washington to receive more CARES Act funding and trying to guide it differently. For example, where CARES Act money can't be used to pay clients' rent, it can be used to, like we said, pay for the operational costs or the expense of a salary increase. And so that's an offset. So in a normal situation, we will provide a salary increase for our staff members that performed in an appropriate way, which we can say today they have based on the numbers and also our audit that was just reported on. The lack of income that we received from that, from not collecting the rent, we're not spending the money on operations on staff type salary issues and things like that. So it's kind of an offset. It's not a complete offset, but it's kind of an offset. So it is helpful for the organization. And as our auditors and our fee accountants said, make sure that when we focus on our CARES Act spending, we look at those larger items so that we can expend the money and save the agency. But we want to also make sure we do smart spending into the future. And then some of those other proposals will come about. You'll hear more about them. That it's not directly staff related.
So, am I correct that it's January of, or the final date to spend this money is in when?
Right, as it speaks for now, the last day to spend the money is December 31st, 2021.
Okay, I got it. So we had the whole year, which I know can fly by. You know, we had previously kind of approved some expenditures for the CARES Act money back in the end of the fall for a certain set of, you know, initiatives. Has that allocation been, how does that allocation relate to the current requests?
It all ties into it. We looked at what was approved in terms of the you know, the current approval budget, and then what some of our ags are now, and seeing that we're about to receive another allotment of funding, and hopefully this new allotment is a little flexible that we can use it more on some structural type stuff related to our properties and things versus just supporting staff or residents.
Are we concerned that if we don't spend this money now, there will be an effect on the new round of money?
I am concerned of that. Like I said before, our HUD field office already reached out to us, and HUD field offices, you know, across the nation is reaching out and making housing authorities get the money spent, and spend it the right way though.
Okay. Is there a way to add language into the approval of this current request such that, sure, this, you know, if somebody fills out a form tomorrow, you approve it, they get money for that month. But if we look a month down the road and determine we have too much money going to this funding or this kind of earmark, and we want to remove it or reallocate it, what mechanism do we have other than to, well, I guess what mechanism do we have to do that?
It's up to, that's what we're asking the board to give me the authority along with the leadership team to make those educated decisions down the line. And that's the hold up on some of the items. And as we go down the line and get to the executive office, you'll see a CARES Act waiver, which gives us a little flexibility to make some of those decisions to stop it, you know, midstream without having to go to the board members or get a resolution to stop it. It gives us that flexibility in the waiver. So HUD provided waivers early on in March for housing authorities and boards to get together to have those approvals for those waivers. So the housing authorities act as things came about versus, you know, the traditional just resolution type activities. And so how we operated in the past is that, you know, anytime items came about like the cleaning, you know, I didn't go to the board. I didn't go to the board and ask, could we, you know, shut the office down 1 week a month for a thorough cleaning of all our events and every in and out when we brought everybody back. I didn't get a board approval for it, but I did talk to all my board members because it was a part of the waivers, what we needed to do, you know, and if we would have had to wait, you know, another 45 days or have a special board meeting just for that. So HUD provided some waivers to give the executive director along with the board members the flexibility to make some decisions that's in line with the CARES Act funding and the guidelines without having to go through monthly meetings about it.
I think taking all that into account, my personal thought on all this is I'd be okay moving forward with this, but as Chairman Hood said, I think we've got to have a more robust reporting system on this, particularly as we get to this waiver towards the end, so that we can see in, you know, real-time dynamic spreadsheets, charts, where this money is going, and also from a monthly perspective, what alternatives have come about this month, or what other considerations are being made where 3 months down the road we see here's another great opportunity. And I know you have, Mr. Northern, your ear to the ground for a lot of the opportunities out there where we can be allocating these funds. But I think as a board we've got to have an idea of where the ship is headed a little more than we do currently. But in light of the comments about the next round and the where things have stood, I'd be inclined to move forward on this. Again, with the exception of I would like to see in writing and maybe even approved by legal the actual process for approval of these funds for the employees.
Yes, sir. Yes, we will do.
Yep. Chairman Hood. Chairman Hood, are you there?
I'm sorry, I was on mute. Go ahead, Commissioner Davis.
Yeah, so I just want to make a comment concerning the CARES Act funds. Just kind of give you a historical perspective, kind of going back several months, and Commissioner Pantazis kind of touched on that about the budget that was approved some 6 months ago, probably longer than that, probably longer, maybe like close to 7 to 8 months ago that we approved that budget. And so I just want the record to show that the board was not derelict in its duties. We were asked by HUD to approve a budget. We approved the budget. We gave Ms. Foster, the interim president CEO at that time, the authority to expend those funds. And I've had several discussions with Ms. Foster. There were issues there when the requests that were sent in, there were delays on HUD's end, not on our end. And so I just want the record to show that the board did its duty. We approved the budget. And a lot of those funds, a lot of those items that were on that budget were held up at HUD for whatever reason. I do not know why they were held up, but the board did approve that measure to allow the interim president CEO at the time to make those decisions. And then all of a sudden, we get an email stating that we need to spend our funds, and we've been trying to spend the funds. And so it's just kind of a contradiction that I see from HUD asking us to spend the funds when we approved the budget to allow the interim president CEO to approve the funds. And she was trying to spend the funds, and there were delays on top of delays on top of delays. So I just want the record to show that the board was not derelict in its duties.
Oh, no. Yeah, I think the board did a great job. I've looked at the budget a couple of times in terms of what was presented to the board and what was approved. And I do agree that having a HUD limited review delayed a lot of items in terms of, the timing that it takes, right? Because HUD's not just working for Birmingham Housing Authority. It has a number of housing authorities and a number of issues that it's dealing with. And so for them to take the time out and look through all of our major purchases and budget line items, it caused a tremendous delay, and that had affected the operations. I don't know the overall justifications of the reasons for that, but I do know it has been some delays. And I am happy, that I was able to report this week that last week or so, that HUD did release us from the limited review, giving us the local flexibility to do the things that we need to do to move forward with the organization.
Thank you, Mr. Northern. Commissioner Pantazis, like you were going to say something.
No, I was just going to reiterate, I think Commissioner Davis and Mr. Northern are right in the sense that I know there was a lot of time and effort that went into not only the board's actions to review a budget, but finance and accounting to present a budget to us that we could look through and comb through, and then also ultimately Ms. Foster and really reaching out to various parts of the organization to determine where that money should go. So I do know there's a lot of work put into it, and I also know that I'm totally fine with being flexible and saying 6 months down the road that there's some other ways we can spend this money. I think we would be derelict to not do that and to not be flexible, but I do think there was a lot of work put into that. So, I agree with the statements made.
Thank you, Commissioner Pantazis. So I just want to reiterate, and we're going to get back to this agenda item. And Commissioner Davis, I appreciate you you know, again, like I mentioned before, giving us that institutional knowledge. I would request that at the next board meeting, we get an update on whatever funds that we've already spent, and then we get a forecasted budget for the remaining funds, how we anticipate that those funds might be spent over the next, on a monthly basis. And I think having that, I think is going to resolve a lot of these questions that we're having right now.
Yes, yes.
So with that, going back to agenda item for approving the employee dependent care stipend, are there any questions specific to that agenda item? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve that item. And I would also entertain just a clarification to that this will be contingent upon the availability of remaining CARES Funds Act to fund this dependent care stipend.
Yes. Duly noted, sir.
Motion to authorize the president and CEO to approve a dependent child care stipend for employees.
I would second it with an addendum if that's possible, and that would be to add in the written procedure for, and it sounds like it's already there, but it just isn't included here, but just the written procedure to obtain approval.
Okay. Great.
Mr. Chairman, I think the addendum may have to be attached to the motion. If there's an addendum to the main motion, I don't think you can do it under a second. I think it has to be attached to the main motion.
If
Commissioner Thompson?
yeah, if Commissioner Thompson will redo her motion to include the addendum that Commissioner Patasis is requesting.
And can you, Commissioner Patasis, can you restate your addendum language?
Sure, it would be to simply add written procedures for approval of the stipend.
Okay. Okay, so I've moved to authorize the president CEO to approve a dependent child care stipend for employees, provided a written procedure for approval of the stipend.
I second that motion.
All right, it's been moved and properly second that we authorize the president and CEO to approve an employee dependent care stipend with the stated caveats. You've heard that. Are you prepared to vote? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
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 Any opposals?
Aye.
Okay. With no opposals, that agenda item is approved. Ms. Jefferson Mitchell, you can continue to your next one.
Thank you, commissioners. Commissioners, you have in front of you approval to grant employee a remote stipend. So the proposal is to request board approval to grant a remote stipend of $25 a month to qualified employees who had and continue to telework from home or an off-site location. HABD is requesting this stipend to pay and retro pay qualified employees a stipend of $25 per month. And then, Commissioner, again, I won't go over the purpose because it falls within the guidelines of the CARES Act fund and some of the things that some of the other housing authorities are doing. The justification. HABD executive team is executing a return to work plan to bring all employees back into the office full time. The office will remain closed to the public, vendors, etc., and still meet the needs of the clients. To continue to maintain the safety of the employees during the coronavirus pandemic, there may be times that employees will still need to telework or work remotely. According to the CDC, one of the common work-related factors that can add to the employee's stress is lack of access to tools and equipment needed to perform their job. Several employees were able to telework immediately beginning March 2020 and were tasked to use their own services such as Wi-Fi, internet, electricity, phone, etc. Therefore, HABD is requesting this stipend and is requesting to retro pay qualified employees a stipend of $25 per month. This stipend is to assist with the services that were and are used to help business operations move forward and meet the needs of the HABD. Prior to issuing any stipend and prior to issuing any stipends, the financials will be reviewed and guidelines will be assessed. HABD will do its due diligence to ensure all employee work plans related to remote work is confirmed and validated by the supervisor and the department heads. And once again, throughout this pandemic, department heads have been issuing work plans and work schedules to the staff, depending on what's been going on with the pandemic, and then also depending on the needs of the agency. And then of course you have the same attachment. And I don't think you guys have the attachment. I don't see it in mine, but there was an attachment with numbers. So finance was able to do a lot of the breakdowns of numbers. What you guys may have is just a summary. So there were some numbers that was broken down. And one of those numbers was for this particular board action as well. I don't see it in my attachment, so I don't think that you guys may not have it in your attachment. But again, those items can be provided.
I know in one of our board packet it is included. I'm looking at it now.
Okay. And so that, of course, is just the estimate. Commissioners, do you have any questions about this board action?
I think this one is kind of the most simple one for the board members to like understand and see. It's just the people that was working at home utilizing their own utilities, us covering that small costs. And so where a lot of these resolutions running together, where you got a child care stipend, you got differential pay, you got salary increase. Everybody's not eligible for everything, and that's what we're doing our due diligence, breaking it down. So if you wasn't coming in, if you're not working on site, you don't get differential pay. If you're working at home, then we're helping you with the stipend is helping you pay for utilities that we're causing you to use, so you can work from home. And so, like, it's not one person that should get like all the stipends or all the benefits from all the various resolutions that we ask for, but it's to make sure that across the board, that at every level in terms of the staff that we're dealing with to provide the services to our clients, that we're making sure that as an organization that we're doing our due diligence, ensuring that we're not increasing the burden that they may have.
Commissioners, thank you, Ms. Northern. Any questions, commissioners, for this item up for approval? If there are no questions, I will entertain a motion to approve the employee remote work stipend, again, with the caveat that this is contingent upon the availability of CARES Act funding.
Put a motion to approve the remote work stipend.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and properly second. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
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 Any opposers? All right, that agenda item is approved. Thank you, Ms. Jefferson Mitchell. Anything else?
No, sir. Thank you, commissioners.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell.
You.
Assisted housing in Section 8, Mr. North?
Yes, Ms. Drake, you're up next to present your information.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Today, I have one item for board approval, which is an amendment to the Section 8 Administrative Plan. The particular section that needs to be updated is related to the Foster Youth to Independence Initiative, also known as the FYI program. The FYI program was created to help and prevent kids aging out of foster care from homelessness or at being at risk of homelessness. I will go over the requested changes as they appear in the admin plan. As we go over them, please let me know if you have any questions. So the first page depicts changing the term tenant protection vouchers to vouchers. This change takes place throughout the admin plan where visible as HUD has allocated funding for this program's longevity. Initially, when the program was released last year, they had it categorized as tenant protection vouchers, but now they are looking at the longevity of the program and has provided separate funding for them to be called foster youth vouchers. Again, you will see that on the second page, and this page depicts required changes for this specified program as it relates to the mandatory requirement of the DHR referrals being added to the waiting list and preference points that we have established for 10 to be added in order to increase their ranking position. So initially, HUD did not have a mandatory requirement for families to go on a waiting list that were referred from the state DHR or DHR. In the new PIH notice, which came out in late October, they now make that a requirement in order to participate with the foster youth program. Also, additionally, you will see where it says additional vouchers may be requested with 90% or greater utilization. When the program first came out, it was noted, and we had to put in our policy that there will only be a maximum of 25 vouchers per federal fiscal year. Well, HUD has amended that, and as long as you are at a 90% or greater utilization, they will allow you to request additional vouchers. It also includes the age at 16 or older. This next page depicts prior language that we need to cross out or take out regarding unused vouchers for the program sunsetting, vouchers for the program sunsetting. What sunsetting is basically turnover. When when the youth left the program, you initially had to contact HUD, send them an email, let them know that that foster youth left the program, and they would take that funding back per family that leaves the program. Now they have it as to, if there is another eligible youth in line for that funding, you may just resume and give that to them without letting them know that the prior youth is no longer eligible or has left the program. Failure to use a voucher, this is paragraph B. Initially, if a family is given a voucher and they fail to lease up within an allocated time period, you would have to, again, notify HUD to let them know that they failed to lease up, and they would take that funding back. If there's another youth that is eligible and in line, you're able to just give it to that family member without letting HUD know. And C, waiting list administration. Initially, I will read it to you that what we're taking out, the funding is targeted to a specific person. As a result, the PHA must use the assistance for that person. The PHA may admit the youth that is not on the PHA waiting list or without considering the family's waiting list position. So that's the most important part that is deleted in the new reg. What is added or requested to be added to our policy that they added to the regulation: upon receipt of a referral from the Alabama Department of Human Resources of an eligible youth, compare the names. You have to compare the names with youth that are already on our waiting list. Any youth on the Housing Authority's HCV waiting list that matches with the DHR's referral must be assisted in the order of their position on the waiting list in accordance with the admission policies. Any youth certified by DHR as eligible and not on the HCV waiting list must be placed on the waiting list. Due to the nature of the FYI vouchers, the waiting list will always be open for the FYI referrals. I would like to also let you guys know that the requested changes are consistent with PIH Notice 2020-28, which supersedes the prior notice, which was 2019-20 HA. Please let me know if you guys have any questions.
All right, thank you, Ms. Drake, for that report. Commissioners, do you have any questions? If there are no questions, I will entertain a motion to approve this item.
Motion to approve the addendum or revision.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and properly seconded that we approve this revision to the Section 8 administration plan. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that item carries. Thank you, Ms. Drake.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you. Ms. Northern? You're on mute, Mr. Northern. You're on mute.
And it's technology, I'll tell you. Next, we have approval extension of the CARES Act waiver. Ms. Foster, she's going to go over that one for you guys.
You're on mute too, Ms. Foster.
I'm sorry, we do this all day and we still have trouble. I was just saying good afternoon to all the commissioners, Mr. Northern and Attorney Moore and all those that are present today. So let me start sharing my screen. Okay, so does everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'm presenting to you the request for board action to approve the HUD PIH notice for HABD administrative flexibility. Due to the COVID-19, on November 30th, HUD approved the extension of waivers and alternative requirements for all PHAs, which applies to public housing and Section 8 housing choice voucher. Most of these waivers are extended to June 30th, 2021. The purpose of these waivers is to allow administrative flexibility in determining which waiver is feasible for the agency and allow the president and CEO to make all decisions on a case-by-case basis related to the waiver. This will streamline and eliminate the delay of daily operations. HABD will continue to update the board monthly on where we are with the waivers. And these waivers will consist of items such as alternative dates for HUD submittals, annual examinations, FSS contracts. If we have residents that are under the Family Self-Sufficiency Program, this allows them that coming up with a contract that extends within this time period, we give the flexibility to extend those dates out. As relates to the inspections, they'll do annual inspections. This will allow us to extend that time out for residents that, don't currently feel comfortable for individuals coming to their unit at this time. So we'll extend those dates out as well. Just to give some examples of some of the things that, these waivers would allow us to do is such as, put out for our resident leadership training. So this would allow us to be more flexible in allowing the residents to go on more trainings in regards to having to come to the board the next 30 days to say we're approving these trainings and sometimes delay or even allow them to miss those training dates. Again, recertifications, in the past, we had residents that during their recertification, they had difficulties going out to get their income verification because some of their employers were closed or not able to get the information to them. So this gives the agency a flexibility to help their residents during those times. So what we're doing is at this time requesting authorization for the president and CEO to implement these waivers listed in the notice. And also attached to the packet is a list of all additional information as relates to those waivers. Such as, again, the annual plan coming out. There may be, we have a deadline with HUD as it relates to that, and this may give us time. We may want to use the waiver to extend that time out, and we need stakeholders and our residents to be more familiar with what's in the annual plan to give them more time to review and make comments as it relates to those.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Foster. Commissioners, any questions? All right, no questions. I will entertain a motion to approve this item.
I make a motion that we approve this, these waiver items.
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded that we approve the extension for the CARES Act waiver. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that item is approved. Ms. Foster, did you have another one?
Yeah, we have one. Oh. Yes. Go ahead, Ms. Foster.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Ms. Melvin.
No, I was just saying we do have one more, and that was as a request of HUD related to the conflict of interest for board members. Ms. Foster.
Thank you. So my next item is to present to the board the approval of the conflict of interest policy for the HABD Board of Commissioners. HUD regulations require all board members along with PHA employees and other official positions to ensure fair, competitive access to procurement opportunities by responsible contractors. Even though we are following those guidelines, thank you, commissioners. But the purpose of this request is to request a certification from each current or future board of commissioners to sign a certification attesting they understand the conflict of interest provisions listed. And I will share those provisions. Here they are below. So what this would do is to satisfy the requirements from HUD. This just allows us to have a resolution complete saying that each board or commissioner will sign a conflict of interest.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Foster. Commissioners, any questions regarding this item?
Chairman Hood, I thought we already had something like this in place. That, to my knowledge, I was under the impression that we already had this item in place. I'm not certain, you know, why we're having to do this, but I'm in full support of it because I thought we were already doing it. I know it's a part of the ACC. The conflict of interest is already a part of the ACC contract that we have to abide by. You know, if this is something that we hadn't already had in place, I'm in full support of it. I was just under the impression that we did already have it in place.
So yes, Commissioner, I thought so as well. So we went back and checked our records, and so the only one we had in place was for ethics. So as it relates to our review, they wanted a resolution in place for the conflict of interest as well. So that's where this request comes from.
Gotcha.
And just to, correct. Thank you, Commissioner Davis. And just to clarify, this requires us to recertify each year with a new conflict of interest declaration.
Well, you do it one time, and we'll have it in the file. And so, if a new board member come aboard, this resolution will require them to have to do the same certification. So
It's
not annual.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. I didn't hear you.
And so this is not an annual certification.
It's not annual, just a one-time certification.
It just serves as your term. So you would just, as your term goes.
They just want it signed in the file and acknowledge that each board member are aware of those policies, basically. Now, Ms. Foster, was there any particular trainings that was associated with it that the board had to take? I can't recall if we had those.
Yeah, there's a lead the way training that the board has to participate in, and there's a certification at the end of each training that they have to sign. So that's a separate certification.
So yeah, that's what it is. It goes through that training and show that you did complete the training, and it's a part of the file.
Great.
Yeah, I got a question. Chairman, is this as far as the training, is that a mandatory training, or is that something that they recommend?
So we came from, well, when we had the limited review, it came from HUD to request that each board member take the training. And then as we finalized the limited review, they came back and asked as a requirement to submit a certification for their training.
So yeah, so they don't require, if you're under review and they notice something that they feel that may not be right, that based on their opinions, then they ask you to do it. So yeah, they require our board members to go through it.
I will say, for all my fellow board members, if you haven't done it yet, I'm working on mine, and go ahead and carve out a nice afternoon. I think there's a misrepresentation on the HUD website because it does not take the length that they say it does, but it is informative.
It sure, I tried it too, so I ran into some difficulties also. So,
It's
yes.
blessed.
Great, thank y'all. Commissioner Davis, did you have any follow-up questions?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Any other commissioners have any questions regarding this item? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the Board of Commissioners conflict of interest policy.
Motion to approve the conflict of interest policy for the Board of Commissioners of the HABD.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded that we approve this item. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, that item is approved. Thank you, Ms. Foster.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Go ahead, Mr. Northern.
Yeah, our last approval for revision is related to our procurement policy. We're making some changes around some of the requirements. And Mr. Edwards, I think you're going to handle this one, right?
Yes, sir, I will. And let me share my screen. And good afternoon, commissioners.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay, commissioners, I have one item for approval. It's the revision of the HABD procurement policy. The statement of the procurement policy includes all HUD requirements under the annual contribution contract as amended by the CFR 200 and mandated by the HUD handbook. The purpose of the statement of procurement policy is to ensure that goods and services and construction contracts are procured efficiently and effectively and at the most favorable cost to the agency. The objective of this request is to obtain approval of the revision of the procurement policy under the sections titled micro purchases, small purchases, and sealed bids. This change will increase the micro purchase threshold from 3,000 to 10,000. The small purchase thresholds will change from 25,000 to 100,000, and the sealed bid thresholds will change from 25,000 to 100,000. And please note that I've researched this with other PHAs in the state. Since the notice went out from HUD that the thresholds have changed, all have made their changes to their procurement policies. So I think we're basically the last to make those changes. So right now I'm requesting approval for authorization for the president and CEO to revise the procurement policy based on those threshold changes.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Commissioners, are there any questions? Mr. Northern, are you about to say something?
Well, I was just going to say that I want to thank Mr. Edwards for that and doing the research. That was one of the things that we saw in looking at some of through our policies, that our numbers was quite low related to the ability to do our purchases and handle our business. So we did do our due diligence and check. And even I think one of the, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Edwards, we decided to stay at $100,000, but one, we had the ability to go up higher, right?
Yes. Those requirements say that based on the threshold, you can go to 50,000.
Yeah, but we want to stay in line with the $100,000. That's usually the HUD's small purchase amount, and a threshold with bids and things like that. So.
Great, thank you. If there are no other questions, I will entertain a motion to approve this item to review.
I have one
question. Go ahead,
question.
Vice Chairman Lewis.
Is this going to improve the time that it take us to pay people? Is it going to improve from 6 months? When we extend from present to 100,000, is it going to improve the time that it take us to pay our bills?
It will make the procurement process go a little faster. The AP side is a financial side, but as far as the procurement process is concerned, it will expedite the procurement process. With those greater thresholds, we can have a better or more flexibility to procure as opposed to a limited threshold.
And Commissioner Lewis, just to follow up on that question, we are, as you know, that there's a number of items that we're looking at, procedures and policies and flows to ensure that we increase the way we do business as an organization overall. And so we are looking at that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve this item.
I make a motion that we improve the procurement. I'm sorry, I got my throat.
Okay. The revisions to the procurement policy?
Yes.
I second.
Okay. All right, it's been moved and properly seconded that we approve the revisions to the procurement policy. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that item approves. Thank you, Mr. Edwards.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Mr. Northern, if there's nothing else, we'll go over to persons desiring to speak before the board. Did you have anything else before we move to that item?
No, I just want to just say that I had neglected to report in my President CEO report that I did meet a couple times with the resident leaders. Our team is working to ensure that they get the funding that they were entitled to. And from my last report, I believe every site, but maybe one, received their funding. Am I right, Ms. Foster?
There would be two, and that's due to illness.
Yeah, and the only reason that they hadn't received it is because of illnesses that we're working through in order to make sure all the paperwork and stuff is in order. We also in the process of reviewing two bids for resident leaders activities, education and training, and so that should come out pretty soon. Just want to make sure the residents that was on the line heard that we are working on those items to get them moving forward also.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Northern.
So,
Chairman Lewis, were you about to say something?
No, he just answered it.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
And they beat me up pretty good too in those meetings. They beat me up pretty good in those meetings also.
Well, you look like you came out okay.
You got to tenderize your meat, so
yeah.
let's get you ready.
No, it's fine. It's fine. We're working well together. It's fine. We had a presentation, I believe, right, Ms. Foster?
Yes, based on developments.
Okay.
And Cindy Herrera, the real estate consultant, I think she's on the line. She had a little difficult getting in earlier, but I think she's on the line.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to meet all of you. We had provided a written development report. I'm not sure if it was included in the board package, but we had provided an update on the redevelopment efforts for Southtown. We're making significant progress there. We currently are waiting for a SHPO clearance from the State Historic Preservation Office regarding the 2 shotgun houses. And we're working with them because they've determined that those houses are historically significant. So we're working on a memorandum of agreement for that for Southtown. We've also worked with HUD to be able to amend the Section 18 demolition application to be able to phase that so that blocks B, C, and D would end up being one phase, and then block A would be a separate phase. So we'll be amending both the relocation plan and the demolition plan to be able to address that. We worked with both the multifamily housing developer who's doing the 60-unit family tax credit project that will be funded with the 9% low-income housing tax credits. And we're also working with the senior development partner who's doing the 160-unit senior project. The family 60% project would like to close this summer. Obviously, that's going to be pending the demolition. We cannot move forward with the demolition until we have resolved the SHPO issue. So those are the primary issues that we've been discussing and trying to move the Southtown project forward. In addition to that, it's been baptism by fire to get my feet and hands into everything that's going on. You all have a lot of good development activities underway. And so I'm working with staff on looking at all of those development activities. We've had a couple of meetings with HUD to go over the plan that they had presented last year in July, to revisit that plan and take a look at it. And I look forward over the next couple of months to coming back to the board with a comprehensive repositioning plan for the entire real estate portfolio over a long-term basis. Any questions? I look forward to meeting you all in person sometime in the near future.
Okay, great. Thank you for that update, Ms. Northern.
I just wanted to know if the board had any other questions about the development, and thank you, Cindy, and the team that's been working on it. It's a lot to pull together, but as she said, that's our goal, to have a holistic approach that we can provide to the board how we want to move forward with a lot of the developments that we have underway.
Great, thank you. All right, since I did no comments from the board, anybody else desiring to speak for the board before we adjourn? Okay, seeing none, Ms. Northern, congratulations on your first meeting. I'm sorry.
This is Ms. Davis. Yes.
Hey, Ms. Davis.
How are you today?
Well, how about you?
I'm good. Congratulations, you and Ms. Lewis.
Thank you.
I have
Thank you,
two concerns. The long as residents are included in the South Town, long as they get their word heard out. The second one is, when it comes to security, I really wish that you will include us in that, because for some reason, they don't listen to the residents. You're not listening to us. We live out here. So when you get ready to do that, please include us in that. Thank you.
Chairman Hood, could I say something?
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Davis, I totally appreciate that. And we just had a discussion yesterday because our current police contract is up for review, and we talking about our scope. And I made a point to mention that I wanted our resident leaders, along with some staff, involved with reviewing the scope. So I want us to go through the scope so we can see exactly what we're asking for, what they're supposed to do on all ends, and residents and clients, and have their input in what's going on related to that contract. So I appreciate that comment. We just had that conversation yesterday about how that before we move forward the police contract, we wanted the resident leaders to be involved and engaged in that process.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Appreciate that.
Okay.
Anybody else desiring to speak before we adjourn?
Okay, I'm back, Rob.
Commissioners, any other thoughts before we adjourn? Well, again, I just want to, I'm sorry, Commissioner Fantasis, you about to say something?
No, I just was going to congratulate you and Commissioner Lewis again, and thank Mr. Northern for a great first meeting. I appreciate everybody that contributed.
You know, they asked that job.
Same here.
Yeah, I concur. Again, head tip to Commissioner Davis for serving with distinction as our chairperson for these years. And again, Ms. Foster, there's no words that we can say to let you know how much we appreciate you leading through such difficult times with this pandemic. And when we look at, just how you handled everything, it was really good. So really appreciate you. Hopefully you've taken a vacation. If not, I'm sure you will.
No.
All right. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, it's been moved and properly second that we adjourn the meeting of the Housing Authority of Birmingham District. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. All right, everybody, please stay safe and sanitize, and we'll see you next month.
See y'all.
Thank you.
Thanks.